Before Microsoft, before billions, there was just a teenage boy and an old computer in a school basement. Welcome to this inspiring English learning story. Have you ever felt small in a big world? Like your dreams are too far away? In this video, you'll follow the true story of a boy who started with nothing but a curious mind and a passion for learning, and grew up to change the world. His name is Bill Gates. This story is more than just about computers or money. It's about vision, determination, and the power of never giving up. You'll learn real English through storytelling and walk away not just with new vocabulary, but with new inspiration. So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let's begin the story of how one boy's dream turned into a global legacy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoy learning English this way. A dream begins. Do you ever feel like the world is too big and your dreams are too far away? That no matter how hard you try, success seems out of reach? If so, you're not alone. Everyone, even the most successful people in the world, has felt that way at some point. And today, we're going to talk about someone who started with just a curious mind and a deep desire to learn, a boy who would go on to change the world. His name is Bill Gates. This isn't just a story about computers or business. It's a story about dreaming big, working hard, and believing in yourself, even when no one else sees your potential yet. It's about how one person's passion and persistence turned into a legacy that would impact millions of lives. Bill Gates did not come from a rich or famous family. He was not born with special powers or genius-level intelligence. But what he had was powerful curiosity. From a young age, he wanted to understand how things worked. He would spend hours reading, thinking, and asking questions. He believed that learning could take him anywhere, and he was right. In this story, we will walk through his journey, from the quiet moments in his childhood library to the noisy offices of one of the biggest tech companies in the world. We'll explore the moments that shaped him, the people who supported him, and the lessons he learned along the way. As we go through Bill's story, we invite you to do more than just listen. Try to connect the story to your own life. Think about what drives you, what challenges you face, and how you could take the first step toward your own dreams. And along the way, we'll help you learn useful English phrases and vocabulary, just like Bill learned something new every single day. This isn't just Bill Gates' story. It could be yours too. Let's begin. The early spark. Bill Gates was born on October 28, 1955, in Seattle, Washington, in the United States. His full name was William Henry Gates III. The third in his name came from a long family tradition, but no one in his family could have imagined that this little boy would grow up to change the world. Bill's family lived a comfortable, middle-class life. They weren't rich, but they had enough. His father, William H. Gates Sr., was a tall, serious man who worked as a lawyer. He believed in discipline, education, and doing things the right way. His mother, Mary Maxwell Gates, was kind, smart, and full of energy. She had been a teacher and later served on the boards of important companies. From both parents, Bill learned two key values: work hard and always keep learning. Even as a baby, Bill was different. His parents noticed that he could focus for long periods. He would stare at objects, try to understand how they worked. They joked that he had the mind of a scientist trapped in a child's body. That natural curiosity never went away. It only grew stronger with time. By the age of 7, Bill was already a serious reader. He didn't read just stories or comics. He read books about science, history, law, and philosophy. His favorite place in the house was the small family library. He could sit there for hours, quietly flipping through pages, lost in a world of ideas. Books became his best friends, and knowledge became his favorite playground. But school wasn't always exciting for him. In fact, Bill often felt bored. The lessons were too easy. He would finish assignments quickly, then sit quietly, waiting for the next challenge. His teachers sometimes complained that he was too restless. He didn't always follow the rules, and he often seemed distracted in class. One day, when Bill was just 9 years old, a teacher asked him, "Bill, why do you always look distracted in class?" Bill answered calmly, "Because I've already read the book." His parents soon realized that he needed a different kind of school, one that could challenge his sharp mind and feed his hunger to learn. That's when they enrolled him in Lakeside School, one of the most prestigious private schools in Seattle. Lakeside School would change everything, meeting the machine that changed everything. At Lakeside School, everything felt new. The teachers were different, the classes were harder, and the students were some of the brightest in the city. For the first time, Bill felt like he was in the right place. He still loved books, of course, but something even more exciting was waiting for him, something that would completely change his life: a computer. It was the late 1960s, and back then, computers were not like the laptops or smartphones we have today. They were huge machines, so big they could fill an entire room. Only big companies, universities, or government offices had them. Most people had never even seen one in person. But Lakeside had something special. The school's Mothers Club raised money to buy a computer terminal and connect it to a larger machine at a nearby company. It was a big deal. And when Bill saw it for the first time, he was completely fascinated. The machine didn't look impressive. It had no screen, only a keyboard and a printer. But to Bill, it was magic. The moment he touched the keyboard, he felt something spark inside him. He didn't know much about programming yet, but he wanted to learn. He wanted to understand how to talk to the machine, how to give it instructions, how to make it do what he imagined. Bill started spending all his free time in the computer room. He skipped lunch. He stayed after school. He even asked to miss other classes just to be with the machine. At first, the teachers were annoyed. They thought he was wasting time. But soon, they realized this wasn't just a hobby, it was a talent. One of his math teachers saw how excited Bill was and said, "Bill, you might just change the world someday." And Bill believed it. At just 13 years old, he wrote his first computer program. It was a simple game of tic-tac-toe, where a user could play against the computer. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. And more importantly, it gave Bill his first taste of what was possible when creativity met technology. Programming became his new obsession. He loved the way he could build something from nothing, using only his mind and a keyboard. He would write code, test it, fix it, and improve it. Every small success gave him a sense of pride. Every bug was a puzzle to solve. But Bill wasn't alone in this new world. There was another student at Lakeside who shared his passion, a quiet, thoughtful boy named Paul Allen. Paul was 2 years older, but the two quickly became friends. While Bill was energetic and bold, Paul was calm and strategic. They were different in personality, but perfect partners in passion. Together, they would talk for hours about computers. They dreamed about the future when maybe, just maybe, computers wouldn't be giant machines locked away in labs, but smaller, more personal. Machines that people could have in their homes, on their desks, maybe even carry in their pockets one day. One afternoon, Paul turned to Bill and said, "I believe one day there will be a computer on every desk and in every home." That idea seemed crazy at the time. Computers were expensive, slow, and complicated. But Bill didn't laugh. He nodded and said, "Let's make it happen." And just like that, a dream began to take shape. Friendship and the power of shared vision. Bill and Paul's friendship wasn't just about computers. It was about possibility. When they talked, it was like they were already living in the future. Their conversations weren't filled with small talk. Instead, they imagined a world where computers could do everything: help people, run businesses, make life easier, and change the way we live and learn. Even though they were still teenagers, they spoke with the energy and belief of inventors. Bill loved Paul's ideas, and Paul admired Bill's intensity. While their classmates played sports or hung out at parties, Bill and Paul stayed late in the computer lab, exploring code, pushing buttons, and building dreams. Bill's drive was unstoppable. He wasn't just curious, he was hungry. He wanted to build things, improve things, challenge himself. Paul, on the other hand, was more quiet and analytical. He read computer magazines cover to cover and always had his eye on the next big innovation. Together, they were the perfect match, one thinker, one doer. Then came their first real chance to turn dreams into action. One day, a company called the City of Seattle needed help analyzing traffic data. They had a problem: too much data, not enough tools. Paul and Bill saw this as an opportunity. They created a software program that could process and organize the data. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked, and the city paid them $20,000. For two teenagers in the 1970s, that was like winning the lottery. They called their small business Trafo Data. It was their first taste of success, and more importantly, it showed them something powerful: an idea plus hard work equals real results. This project taught Bill an important lesson. Success isn't just about dreaming. It's about turning ideas into action. It's not enough to be smart. You have to do the work, take the risks, and follow through. Even while building Trafo Data, Bill stayed competitive. At school, he would challenge friends to see who could solve problems faster. He loved betting on who could write better code. He was friendly, but he hated losing. His energy, combined with Paul's focus, made them unstoppable. But not everyone was impressed. Sometimes, Bill's parents worried about how much time he spent with computers. One evening, his mother said, "Bill, you can't spend your whole life in front of a computer." Bill just smiled and said, "Why not? One day, computers will change the world, and I want to be part of that." He wasn't trying to be dramatic. He truly believed it. At Lakeside, Bill and Paul became known as the computer guys. They weren't cool in the traditional sense. They weren't popular athletes or party leaders. But they were visionaries, even if nobody else could see it yet. Late at night, after classes were over, they would sit together in front of the computer, dreaming up software, talking about business ideas, and imagining the future. They had no office, no money, and no roadmap. But they had something more valuable: a shared vision. They didn't know what the future held, but they believed in it. And more importantly, they believed in each other. The first leap into business. By the time Bill Gates was 15 years old, he had already done something most teenagers couldn't even imagine. He had made money by writing computer programs. Alongside his friend Paul Allen, Bill had turned their hobby into something real: a small business. Trafo Data, their traffic data software, didn't become a global company, but gave them something far more valuable than fame or fortune: belief. They now knew that they could turn ideas into action and action into results. Earning $20,000 was an incredible milestone. It wasn't just about the money. It was proof that their skills had value, that their ideas could solve real-world problems. It gave them confidence to dream even bigger. For Bill, the experience was thrilling. He saw the magic of software, the ability to create tools that could help cities, businesses, and people. He realized that the future wouldn't be built with bricks or machines. It would be built with code. But success didn't mean Bill became a serious adult overnight. At Lakeside, he was still a teenager with a playful side. He enjoyed sitting with girls in class, not to flirt, but because he believed they were more disciplined and focused. He wanted to learn from the best, and sometimes that meant learning from his female classmates. Bill also loved competition. He challenged his friends in math and logic problems. He would bet on who could finish a puzzle faster or who could find the most creative solution. He didn't just want to learn, he wanted to win. And he always wanted to be better than yesterday. As his passion for computers grew, so did his time in front of the machine. His parents watched with concern. Was this obsession healthy? Would it distract him from school, from friends, from the future they had imagined for him? One night, his mother sat him down and said, "Bill, you can't spend your whole life in front of a computer." Bill looked up with a smile and replied, "Why not? One day, computers will change the world, and I want to be part of that." This wasn't a dream anymore. It was a plan. Even as a teenager, Bill didn't just want to write programs. He wanted to build something bigger than himself. He didn't know exactly what it would be, but he felt it deep inside. A vision of a future where everyone had access to computers, where software could improve lives. Late at night, Bill and Paul would sit and talk. They imagined a world filled with computers. A world where people didn't need to be engineers or scientists to use them. A world where every home and every desk had a machine that could help with writing, learning, playing, and working. In 1973, at the age of 18, Bill graduated from Lakeside and enrolled at Harvard University, one of the most prestigious schools in the world. His parents were proud. They thought he would become a lawyer like his father, maybe even a judge or a politician. But Bill had other plans. While other students studied law, history, or medicine, Bill spent most of his time in the computer lab. He skipped lectures to write code. He stayed up all night solving problems and exploring new software ideas. One day, a professor asked him, "Why don't you focus on your studies?" Bill replied with a smile, "Because this is the future. Computers will change everything, and I want to be ready for it." Even at Harvard, he was already thinking ahead, dropping out to step up. In 1974, while Bill Gates was still a student at Harvard, something happened that would change his life forever, and the world too. A small company called MITS released a new product, the Altair 8800, the first personal computer that regular people could buy. It didn't look impressive. It had no screen, no keyboard, just flashing lights and switches. But to people like Bill and Paul, it was revolutionary. When Paul Allen saw the cover of Popular Electronics magazine featuring the Altair, he rushed to show it to Bill. He said, "This is it. This is our chance." They both knew that the world of computers was about to shift. No longer would computers be giant machines hidden in labs. They were becoming personal, and they needed software. Paul and Bill didn't waste a second. They called MITS and told them they had written a programming language for the Altair. It wasn't true. They hadn't written anything yet, but they believed they could, and that belief was powerful. They worked nonstop for weeks, writing code without even owning an Altair. They tested the program using only their knowledge and pure imagination. It was a huge risk, but they trusted themselves and each other. When Paul flew to MITS headquarters to test the software, it worked perfectly. That one moment changed everything. Bill had a decision to make. He was still a student at Harvard, one of the top universities in the world. His parents expected him to graduate, maybe become a lawyer. But in his heart, he knew where he belonged. So in 1975, at the age of 20, Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard. His parents were shocked. His mother said, "Bill, what are you doing? Harvard is your future." Bill looked at her and said, "No, Mom. This is my future." Together with Paul Allen, Bill started a new company. They called it Microsoft, a combination of microcomputer and software. It was simple, direct, and perfect for what they were building. But starting a company wasn't easy. They had no office, no team, and barely any money. They worked from a small room, sleeping very little, coding all day, and calling potential clients at night. Bill was focused. He wanted every line of code to be perfect. He believed that excellence mattered, even if no one was watching yet. Paul focused on the business side, finding partners, writing letters, and managing deals. Together, they made a strong team. Their first software for the Altair was a hit. Other companies began to notice them. Slowly, Microsoft started to grow. As more people bought personal computers, they needed software to run them, and Microsoft was ready. Bill had taken a giant leap. He had left behind comfort, safety, and tradition. But in return, he had gained something priceless, the chance to build his dream from the ground up. He didn't just want to sell software. He wanted to shape the future. And step by step, line by line, he was doing it, building Microsoft from scratch. In 1975, Microsoft was just two young men and a dream. There were no suits, no skyscrapers, no corporate meetings. Just passion, late nights, and a deep belief that software could change the world. Bill Gates was the engine behind the company's growth. He wasn't just a programmer. He was a perfectionist. He would often stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning, writing code, testing it, and fixing every small bug. He demanded a lot from others, but even more from himself. If a customer found a mistake, he took it personally. Paul Allen, on the other hand, was the calm, strategic force. He focused on building partnerships and spreading the word about their software. He had vision. Bill had drive. Together, they made Microsoft more than just a company. They made a movement. Then came her first big break. In 1980, one of the biggest companies in the world, IBM, reached out. They were building a personal computer and needed an operating system. This was the brain of the computer, the thing that controlled how it worked. IBM needed it fast, and they needed it done well. Microsoft didn't actually have an operating system at that time, but Bill didn't say no. Instead, he quickly bought a basic system called QDOS, improved it, and renamed it MS-DOS. He then sold it to IBM, not for a one-time fee, but with a clever idea. IBM could use it, but Microsoft would keep the rights. This one decision changed everything. Soon, every IBM computer in the world was running Microsoft software. As IBM grew, Microsoft grew with it. And suddenly, Bill Gates went from a young entrepreneur to a rising star in the tech world. But Bill wasn't done. He knew that to reach even more people, computers had to become easier to use. Back then, computers used only text commands. You had to type instructions. If you made a mistake, the machine wouldn't work. It was powerful, but frustrating. So in 1985, Microsoft launched something revolutionary: Windows. Windows introduced a new way to use a computer, with a screen full of icons, windows, and a mouse. Instead of typing, you could click. Anyone, even without technical knowledge, could now use a computer. It was a massive success. Microsoft began to dominate the software industry. Other companies tried to compete, but few could keep up with the pace of innovation and Bill's relentless energy. Inside Microsoft, Bill was known as a tough but visionary leader. He expected long hours, sharp thinking, and commitment. He would question every idea, challenge every plan. But his team respected him because he worked harder than anyone. Bill believed that if you wanted to build something great, you had to give your best every day. His famous quote says it best: "Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose." To him, success wasn't about money. It was about building tools that empowered others. It was about staying hungry even after you win. As Microsoft grew, so did Bill's influence. He was no longer just a programmer. He had become a leader, a visionary, and one of the youngest billionaires in history. But at his core, he was still that curious kid who had once stared at a computer at Lakeside School, dreaming of a world filled with possibilities. And now, that world was becoming real, one click at a time. Competition and creativity. As Microsoft soared to success in the 1980s, another company was also rising, Apple. And behind Apple was a bold, creative thinker named Steve Jobs. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs were very different. Bill was logical, detail-oriented, and focused on building strong software. Steve was emotional, design-driven, and obsessed with beauty and simplicity. They came from different worlds, but they were both aiming for the same goal: to transform the future with technology. At first, Microsoft and Apple worked together. Microsoft even created software for Apple's early computers. But it wasn't long before competition took over. Apple was working on a new type of computer with a graphical interface, icons, windows, and a mouse. When Microsoft launched Windows, which had similar features, Apple accused them of copying. Tension grew between the two companies. Steve Jobs once said, "Bill is unimaginative. He steals ideas rather than comes up with new ones." But even in the heat of rivalry, there was respect. Bill replied, "Steve had an amazing eye for design. He could make things beautiful in ways I couldn't." Their relationship was strange. One moment, they were partners. The next, they were enemies. But one thing never changed. They pushed each other to be better. Bill knew that competition wasn't the enemy. It was the fuel. Apple made Microsoft think harder, move faster, and improve their products. And Microsoft's success forced Apple to innovate too. While Steve focused on making computers that felt magical, Bill focused on making computers affordable and accessible. He wanted every home, every desk, and every classroom to have a computer running Microsoft software. His dream wasn't about style, it was about scale. And it worked. By the late 1980s, Microsoft had become the dominant force in personal computing. Millions of people around the world were using Windows. Businesses, schools, and governments relied on Microsoft software. Bill's vision was becoming reality. And yet, he didn't slow down. He kept pushing his team to improve. He believed that good wasn't good enough. There was always a better way, a faster method, a smarter solution. One of his guiding principles was, never stop improving. There's always a better way to do something. Inside Microsoft, the pressure was high, but so was the excitement. The company was growing fast, hiring the best minds, and building software that touched lives in every corner of the world. Meanwhile, the rivalry with Apple continued. Steve Jobs was building the Macintosh, while Bill was perfecting Windows. Their companies would compete for decades, each shaping the future in their own way. But something beautiful happened, too. Over time, that competition turned into mutual admiration. As they grew older, both men began to appreciate each other's strengths. Steve praised Bill for being a master strategist. Bill admired Steve's ability to inspire people and create products that felt like art. In one public event, Steve said, "Bill's the only one I've met who didn't give up." And Bill, reflecting on Steve's passing, said, "Steve and I grew up together. We shaped an industry. And even when we disagreed, I always respected him." Their rivalry became a story not just of business, but of creativity, passion, and the power of vision. Together, they showed the world that competition can lead to greatness, if it's driven by purpose, not ego. Success with humility. By 1987, Bill Gates had done something almost no one in history had achieved. At just 31 years old, he became the youngest self-made billionaire in the world. He had built Microsoft from nothing, just two friends and a dream, into a global powerhouse that changed how people lived, worked, and learned. But despite his success, Bill didn't act like a typical billionaire. He didn't buy fancy sports cars or show off his wealth. He didn't throw wild parties or wear expensive designer clothes. In fact, many people were surprised by how simple and down-to-earth he was. Bill Gates still wore sweaters, read books, and ate cheeseburgers. He believed that money wasn't the goal, impact was. Instead of chasing luxury, he kept his focus on building better software and growing Microsoft. He worked long hours, challenged his team, and made sure every product met his high standards. He once said, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do and be willing to do it every day, even when it's hard." Bill's daily routine was filled with discipline. He read constantly, books about science, politics, and technology. He believed reading helped him stay sharp and think big. Even when he was one of the richest people on earth, he remained a student of the world. At Microsoft, Bill was known as a demanding leader. He expected excellence. He didn't tolerate laziness, but he wasn't cruel. He simply believed that when you're building something that matters, every detail counts. His leadership style wasn't about being the smartest person in the room. It was about creating a culture where smart people could do their best work. He surrounded himself with talent and trusted them to rise to the challenge. But Bill also understood something deeper. With great power comes great responsibility. He didn't want to be remembered just as the man who made billions. He wanted to be remembered as someone who made a difference. And that mindset extended to his personal life. In 1987, the same year he became a billionaire, Bill met a young woman named Melinda French. She worked at Microsoft and was intelligent, thoughtful, and full of ideas. At first, they kept things professional. But over time, they began to talk more, laugh together, and discover that they shared many of the same values. Melinda admired Bill's passion and focus. Bill admired her kindness and insight. They both believed in using technology to solve real problems. They both believed in helping others. In 1994, they got married in a quiet ceremony in Hawaii. It was simple, beautiful, and full of love. They didn't just build a family. They built a partnership, a team focused not only on their company, but on the world around them. Together, they raised 3 children, Jennifer, Rory, and Phoebe. Despite being one of the richest families on earth, Bill and Melinda raised their kids with humility. They taught them the value of hard work, curiosity, and kindness. They didn't spoil them with endless luxuries. In fact, Bill once said, "I want my kids to build their own path." Giving them too much money would take away their motivation. That mindset wasn't popular, but it was powerful. It showed the world that true success isn't about wealth. It's about character. And as Bill's fame and fortune grew, he stayed grounded in the same values he learned as a child. Never stop learning, work hard, be humble, and give back. He was building more than a business. He was building a legacy, love, family, and balance. Behind the scenes of Microsoft's growing empire, another side of Bill Gates was taking shape, one that had nothing to do with software or billion-dollar deals. It was about love, connection, and building a meaningful life outside of work. In the late 1980s, Bill Gates was at the peak of his career. Microsoft was booming. Windows was changing the world. But amid all the meetings, coding marathons, and global expansion, he found someone who made him pause and smile. Melinda French. Melinda was sharp, confident, and deeply thoughtful. She had joined Microsoft as a product manager, and soon her talents caught Bill's attention, not just in the office, but in life. They started spending more time together. It wasn't dramatic or flashy. It was two brilliant people who enjoyed each other's minds, jokes, and dreams. They connected over a shared belief that success wasn't just about business. It was about impact. In 1994, after years of dating, Bill and Melinda got married. The wedding took place in Hawaii and was small and private, far from the media spotlight. It was a celebration not just of love, but of partnership. As a couple, they balanced each other perfectly. Bill was driven and focused. Melinda was warm, organized, and emotionally intelligent. Together, they brought out the best in each other, not just at home, but in their growing desire to give back. Soon, they became parents. Their first child, Jennifer, was born in 1996. She would grow up to be a world-class equestrian and medical student. Their son, Rory, was born in 1999, a quiet, thoughtful boy with a love for poetry and deep thinking. In 2002, their youngest, Phoebe, arrived, creative, curious, and passionate about education and equality. Even with all their wealth, Bill and Melinda were determined to raise their children with humility and heart. They didn't shower their kids with luxury. Instead, they taught them the value of earning, learning, and caring about the world. Bill once said, "Just because I'm rich doesn't mean my children should skip the journey. That journey is where growth happens." Family dinners were important. Reading was encouraged. Gratitude was a daily habit. And even though Bill had meetings with presidents and tech leaders, he always made time to be a father. He helped with homework, played games, and talked with his children about the world, not just as a CEO, but as a dad. Melinda played a huge role in keeping their family grounded. She often said that her most important title wasn't former Microsoft executive, it was mom. Together, Bill and Melinda found a rhythm, a balance between building a global company and nurturing a loving home. But life wasn't perfect. Running a company like Microsoft came with pressure. Critics often accused the company of being too aggressive. In the late 1990s, Microsoft was even taken to court by the U.S. government for unfair business practices. It was a difficult time for Bill. The media was harsh. The public was watching. But even during those years, he leaned on Melinda and their shared belief in doing the right thing. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He faced the challenge, learned from it, and kept going. And through it all, family remained his anchor. As he grew older, Bill began to feel something stirring in his heart. He had built the most powerful software company in the world, but he wanted to do more. He started asking deeper questions. How could he use his resources to help others? What would his legacy really be? He and Melinda began talking about creating something bigger than themselves, something that could fight disease, help children, and change lives. And so, the next chapter of their lives, and of this story, was about to begin. Giving back, a new mission. By the year 2000, Bill Gates had done what many dream of but few achieve. He was the richest man in the world. He had changed how people worked, learned, and communicated. But deep down, he felt something was missing. He had built a company. Now, he wanted to build a better world. That same year, Bill and Melinda launched the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, an organization unlike any other. Their goal wasn't small. They wanted to solve some of the biggest problems on the planet. They didn't just want to donate money. They wanted to create lasting solutions. Their mission was bold: improve global health, provide quality education, ensure clean water and sanitation, reduce poverty and inequality. One of their first major goals was fighting infectious diseases. In many parts of the world, children were dying from illnesses that were easily preventable, like malaria, polio, and tuberculosis. Bill and Melinda believed every child deserved a chance to live a healthy life, no matter where they were born. They funded research. They built clinics. They delivered vaccines. And slowly, lives began to change. In education, the foundation worked to help children stay in school, especially girls. In many places, girls were not allowed to learn, and the Gateses wanted to change that. They believed that education is power, and no child should be left behind. They also invested in clean water systems, knowing that access to safe drinking water could prevent disease and save lives. Bill once said, "Money has no utility to me beyond a certain point. Its utility is in building an organization and getting resources to the poorest in the world." This wasn't charity. It was a mission. People were surprised. Some thought billionaires only cared about profits. But Bill was showing a different path. He proved that wealth could be used as a tool for change, not just luxury. But it wasn't always easy. Some critics questioned the foundation's methods. Others said Bill was trying to control global health. But Bill didn't let the negativity stop him. He stayed focused, stayed humble, and stayed committed. He once said, "If I listened to every critic, I would never get anything done. Focus on the work, not the noise." The foundation grew into one of the largest charitable organizations in the world. And Bill, once the software king, had now become one of the greatest humanitarians of his time. He wasn't done with technology, but his heart had found a new home in service. He also began to think more about the planet. Climate change, he realized, was a massive threat to the future. So he started investing in clean energy, solar, wind, even nuclear technologies. He believed science could save the Earth, just as it had saved lives. And he kept learning. Even after changing the world, Bill still read every day. He still asked questions. He still wanted to grow, because in his eyes, learning never ends. He gave speeches at schools and universities, not to show off, but to inspire. His message was simple: don't wait for the perfect moment. Start now. Take risks. Make mistakes. And learn from them. And millions listened. What began as a small act of giving became a worldwide movement. Lessons from a lifetime. By the time Bill Gates reached his 50s, he had already changed the world in more ways than one. He had built a tech empire, helped save millions of lives, and inspired a generation of thinkers, builders, and dreamers. But Bill knew that true wisdom isn't in what you achieve, it's in what you share. He began spending more time speaking to students, writing blogs, and sharing insights from his journey. His words carried weight, not because of his wealth, but because of his honesty. He had succeeded, failed, risked everything, and kept going. Here are some of the most powerful lessons he shared with the world. 1. Dream big, start small. Bill believed that big ideas don't have to start with big actions. He always said, start where you are. Use what you have. He didn't begin with millions. He began with curiosity, a keyboard, and a question. What if? 2. Embrace failure. To Bill, failure wasn't the opposite of success. It was part of the journey. He said, it's fine to celebrate success, but more important to heed the lessons of failure. Every bug in his code, every mistake in business taught him something valuable. 3. Time is your most valuable resource. Despite his fortune, Bill often reminded people that time, not money, is the most limited resource. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time, he said. That's why he planned his days carefully and read as much as possible. 4. Be curious. Always. Bill was a lifelong learner. He read about science, history, philosophy, and global development. Even during vacations, he carried bags of books. He believed that curiosity was the engine of growth. The world is full of problems, he said, but it's also full of opportunities for those who keep learning. 5. Kindness is strength. In business, Bill was tough. But in life, he believed in compassion. He and Melinda donated to causes that often had no media attention, like sanitation in remote villages or libraries in poor schools. He said, kindness isn't weakness. It's how we build a better future. But Bill didn't just talk. He acted. In 2010, he and his close friend Warren Buffett launched the Giving Pledge, a commitment by billionaires to donate at least half their wealth to charity. Many follow their lead. Today, over 230 of the world's richest people have joined the movement. For Bill, generosity wasn't about being nice. It was about being responsible. Even during personal challenges, like his divorce from Melinda in 2021, Bill stayed focused on the work. They continued running the foundation together, proving that even after parting ways, their shared mission came first. He once said, life will test you in ways you can't imagine, but every challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger. As he entered his 60s, Bill continued to travel the world, not for business deals, but for impact. He visited schools, hospitals, and farms. He listened more than he spoke. He asked questions. He encouraged others to take their own first steps, just like he once had in a tiny school lab in Seattle. And when asked how he defined success, he didn't talk about money, power, or fame. He simply said, the true measure of success is not how much you've achieved, but how many lives you've improved. Beyond Microsoft, a legacy of impact. By the early 2000s, Microsoft was everywhere. Its software powered schools, offices, homes, and governments. The company had become one of the most valuable in the world. And Bill Gates, once a teenager lost in books and code, had become the face of the digital revolution. But Bill had already begun preparing for something even bigger. In 2006, he made a surprising announcement. He would step down from his daily role at Microsoft. The decision shocked the tech world. Why would someone leave the very company he built? Bill's answer was simple. I've been lucky to succeed in technology. Now, I want to spend my time giving back to the world. He wasn't retiring. He was refocusing. He turned his full attention to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. For him, changing lives was the next chapter in changing the world. Under his leadership, the foundation expanded its reach. It invested billions in fighting climate change, supporting clean energy, and funding education projects. It worked with scientists to develop better crops, cleaner water systems, and life-saving vaccines. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the foundation played a major role in global relief efforts. It donated billions to research, helped fund vaccine development, and made sure poorer countries had access to life-saving resources. But Bill didn't just sign checks. He asked tough questions, challenged assumptions, and searched for long-term solutions. He believed in partnerships with governments, scientists, and local leaders. He didn't want quick fixes. He wanted real change. And while many admired his dedication, not everyone agreed with his methods. Some critics worried about one person having so much influence over global issues. Others accused him of trying to control too much. But Bill didn't argue. He listened, learned, and kept working. He once said, "Focus on the work, not the noise. If your heart is in the right place, let the results speak for you." His humility and consistency began to inspire more than just tech fans and entrepreneurs. He became a role model for young leaders, changemakers, and everyday dreamers. Even his fellow billionaires took notice. In 2010, alongside Warren Buffett, he launched the Giving Pledge, encouraging the world's wealthiest people to commit to donating most of their fortunes to good causes. More than 230 billionaires from around the globe joined the pledge. They weren't just writing checks. They were redefining what it meant to be successful. Through all of this, Bill remained deeply involved in learning. He read reports, met with scientists, and asked one big question again and again. How can we do better? He believed that science, technology, and compassion could work together to solve any challenge. Whether it was energy, education, health, or hunger, his message was always clear: we have the tools. Let's use them. Bill's life had come full circle. From building Microsoft to building hope, he had proven that one person, no matter how ordinary they seem, can create extraordinary change. And he wasn't slowing down. Final thoughts. Hope for every dreamer. Bill Gates' story isn't just about computers, coding, or becoming a billionaire. It's a story about something much bigger: the power of belief. He started as a curious boy who read books in a quiet corner of his home. He loved asking questions, solving problems, and dreaming about the future. He didn't have fame, riches, or special talents. But he had something far more powerful: curiosity, courage, and a vision. And that made all the difference. From a tiny computer room at Lakeside School to leading one of the biggest companies on earth, Bill never stopped learning, never stopped building, never stopped believing. He taught the world that success isn't just about where you come from. It's about where you're willing to go. He showed us that you don't need to be born a genius to change the world. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment to start. You just need to begin with what you have right now. Even after becoming the richest man on earth, Bill didn't forget the values he learned as a child. He stayed humble. He gave back. He chose to use his power not for more profits, but for more progress. He reminds us that greatness isn't about what you take, it's about what you give. Bill once said, "The future is not something we enter. It's something we create." That means every single person, no matter how young, how ordinary, how unsure, has the power to shape the future, just like Bill did. So if you're sitting there wondering if your dreams are too far away, think of Bill Gates. Think of that 13-year-old kid playing with computers in an empty classroom, daring to believe he could make a difference. And then ask yourself, what do I want to create? What problem can I solve? What future can I build? Because this isn't the end of Bill Gates' story. It's just one example of what's possible. And the next great story, it could be yours. Thanks for joining us on this powerful journey through the life of Bill Gates. From books to billions, from code to compassion, his story teaches us that success is about purpose, not just profit. What did you learn from this story? Which part inspired you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And remember, your story matters too. Whether you're learning English, chasing a dream, or facing a challenge, you have the power to create your future. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We've got more English learning stories coming your way. See you in the next video, and keep learning every day. Blue Book Vocabulary List, 20 words. Vision, noun, a clear idea of what the future could be. He had a vision to make computers accessible to everyone. Curious, adjective, eager to know or learn something. She was curious about how computers worked. Determined, adjective, having a strong will to do something. He was determined to succeed no matter what. Challenge, noun, something difficult that requires effort to overcome. Starting a company was a big challenge for him. Risk, noun, the possibility of loss or danger. He took a big risk by leaving Harvard. Code, verb, to write instructions for a computer. He learned to code when he was a teenager. Innovate, verb, to create something new and better. They wanted to innovate the way people use technology. Legacy, noun, what someone leaves behind after they're gone. His legacy includes global health and education projects. Humble, adjective, not thinking you are better than others. Despite his success, he stayed humble. Foundation, noun, an organization that helps people. They created a foundation to fight global poverty. Billionaire, noun, a person who has $1 billion or more. He became a billionaire at age 31. Failure, noun, lack of success. He learned from every failure he faced. Success, noun, achieving your goals. Hard work led him to success. Software, noun, programs that run on a computer. They develop software for personal computers. Empower, verb, to give someone strength or confidence. He wanted to empower students through education. Inspire, verb, to motivate someone to act or feel something. His story continues to inspire young people. Opportunity, noun, a chance to do something good. He grabbed every opportunity that came his way. Learning, noun, the process of gaining knowledge. He believed in lifelong learning. Compete, verb, to try to do better than others. They had to compete with big tech companies. Donate, verb, to give something to help others. He donated billions to global causes.